ultimately what the story is about is it's a reminder of our responsibility to each other.
Few families have grown up as publicly as the Jolie-Pitts. For nearly a decade, 6 children raised by 2 of the most famous actors alive have been photographed, tabloid-covered, and speculated about at every turn. Their parents split in 2016, dragged into one of Hollywood's longest and messiest legal battles, still without a fully finalized divorce even as 2026 unfolds. And yet somewhere in the middle of all that noise, 6 young people have quietly been growing up, and more strikingly, growing apart from the surname that once defined them. This is the story of what Maddox, Pax, Zahara, Shiloh, Knox, and Vivian have actually been doing with their lives, and what their choices say about a family that refused to let its most painful chapter become the whole story. If you want to understand this family in 2026, start with the simplest fact. One by one, the Jolie-Pitt children have been stepping away from Pitt. Shiloh moved first, and she moved fast. On May 27, 2024, her 18th birthday, she filed a legal petition in Los Angeles to change her name from Shiloh Nouvelle Jolie-Pitt to Shiloh Nouvelle Jolie. Under California law, that meant publishing a legal notice, and outlets reported she hired and paid for her own attorney rather than relying on either parent's legal team. By August 2024, a judge had granted the change. Her lawyer later told reporters the decision was tied to painful events in her life, without elaborating further. Reports at the time suggested Brad Pitt was informed of the filing and was said to be disappointed by it, though neither he nor Jolie's representatives issued a public statement. Shiloh wasn't the first to distance herself informally, though she was the first to make it legal. Zahara had already been going by Zahara Marley Jolie in public settings since 2022, when she started at Spelman College, and the shift became unmistakable in 2023 when she was formally inducted into the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority under that name. Around the same period, Vivian appeared in the Broadway playbill for The Outsiders, a show her mother produced, credited simply as Vivian Jolie. The pattern kept extending outward. By mid-2026, TMZ reported that both Zahara and Maddox had filed their own petitions, seeking to become Zahara Marley Jolie and Maddox Chivan Jolie respectively, and that Vivian had filed a similar petition of her own that July, just as she and her twin brother Knox were approaching their 18th birthdays. Whatever informal signaling had been happening for years was turning, sibling by sibling, into something with legal weight. What's notable is what hasn't happened. None of the 6 children has sat for a tell-all interview or posted an explanatory statement about why the name is disappearing from their public identities. There's been no viral call-out, no dramatic confrontation caught on camera, just a quiet, procedural, repeated decision, made independently by children who were, at various points, teenagers navigating one of the most scrutinized divorces in modern entertainment history. While the surname story played out in courthouses and playbills, the 2 eldest siblings were building something else entirely. Careers, made mostly out of the spotlight. Maddox, born in Cambodia in August 2001 and adopted by Jolie in 2002, has spent the last decade edging closer to the filmmaking side of the industry rather than the acting side. He's held small production roles connected to his mother's projects, including work tied to her 2017 film, First They Kill My Father, and her 2024 biopic Maria, gradually moving from more junior positions toward assistant directing credits on her 2025 to 2026 film Couture, which premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival in September 2025 before its French theatrical release in February 2026. Industry watchers have noted that the trajectory looks less like a famous kid borrowing his mother's platform and more like someone putting in the unglamorous hours it takes to actually learn production work. Pax, born in Vietnam in November 2003 and adopted by Jolie in 2007, has leaned toward the visual side, photography and on-set work rather than directing. He served as a set photographer on First They Killed My Father and worked as a production assistant on Maria. He's made rare, low-key public appearances, including one at the Sundance Film Festival in early 2026, where he was seen alongside independent filmmakers at a screening. The kind of appearance that suggests someone building relationships in the industry rather than chasing a red carpet. Unlike Maddox, Pax doesn't appear to have pursued a traditional four-year degree, instead moving toward hands-on industry work relatively early. Both brothers have avoided the performing side of the business almost entirely. Jolie addressed this directly at the 2025 Santa Barbara International Film Festival, saying her children generally aren't drawn to being on screen and don't care for the celebrity side of industry. A line that, watching what Maddox and Pax have actually chosen to do, tracks with the evidence. If Maddox and Pax found their footing behind the camera, their sisters found it in two almost opposite directions, one inside an institution built around community and legacy, the other completely outside any institution at all. Zahara, born in Ethiopia in January 2005 and adopted by Jolie later that year, enrolled at Spelman College, one of the most respected historically black colleges for women in the country. In 2022, she graduated on May 17, 2026, with a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and a minor in Educational Studies, part of Spelman's 139th commencement class. Multiple outlets reported that when she crossed the stage, she was introduced simply as Zahara Marley Jolie, even though the printed program reportedly still listed her under the Jolie-Pitt name, a small mismatch that summed up exactly where things stood. Jolie was seen in the crowd, visibly emotional. Brad Pitt's presence at the ceremony wasn't reported by any outlet covering the event. Weeks earlier, at a sorority-connected event, Zahara had spoken publicly about her mother's influence on her, describing Jolie as one of the most selfless and understanding people in her life, and crediting her with shaping her sense of self. Remarks that circulated widely online and offered a rare, warm glimpse into their relationship at a time when most coverage of this family focuses on estrangement rather than closeness. Shiloh's path has looked almost nothing like her sister's. Rather than a campus, her world has been dance studios. A 2024 clip of her rehearsing spread widely online, and by 2025 she'd started choreographing professionally under the name Cher Jolie, including work tied to a Paris fashion event. In early 2026, she turned up in a music video teaser for a K-pop artist, reportedly cast through an open audition process where the production team didn't know who she was until after casting decisions were already made. If that account holds up, it means she was evaluated purely on ability, with her famous last name arriving as an afterthought rather than a credential. At 19, she's treating dance less like a hobby and more like an actual career path, training seriously, performing under a stage name, and letting an audition process do the talking that a press release never could. The twins, born in 2008, are the last of the six to come into full public focus, and in 2026, as they approach 18, that's exactly what's happening. Vivian's path has run through theater. Jolie has said publicly that it was Vivian who first brought her to see The Outsiders at a regional playhouse, which eventually led Jolie to produce the show's Broadway transfer. That production opened on Broadway in April 2024 and went on to win the Tony Award for Best Musical that June, with Vivian, then a young teenager, credited as a volunteer assistant on the production and seated beside her mother at the ceremony. Jolie has described her as someone drawn to supporting other creative people rather than seeking attention herself, comparing her temperament to that of Jolie's own late mother. Knox's interests have run in a very different direction, competitive Muay Thai. Multiple reports describe him training and competing in amateur combat sports events through his mid-teens, with his mother reportedly attending to watch. It's a pursuit about as far from the family's usual entertainment industry orbit as any of the six children have gone, and it's been treated by the family, from what's publicly visible, as a serious commitment rather than a phase. With both twins turning 18 in the summer of 2026, some reports, including accounts relayed to entertainment outlets, suggest Jolie has been preparing for a major shift of her own, potentially spending more time abroad once her youngest children reach adulthood and the last formal custody obligations of the divorce close out. She's previously said in interviews that she stayed rooted in the United States largely because the ongoing legal proceedings required it. Step back from the individual stories, and a pattern comes into focus that's less about scandal and more about six young people making remarkably similar choices in different languages. A philosophy student turning up at Sundance instead of a premiere, a Spelman graduate crossing the stage under her mother's name, a dancer who let an anonymous audition speak for her, an assistant director learning a craft one small credit at a time, a Tony-winning teenager who wanted to be useful rather than seen, and a Muay Thai competitor training instead of posing. None of them has given the tabloid-ready interview that would explain the family's fractures in their own words. Instead, the explanation has arrived slowly, through court filings, playbills, commencement programs, and production credits. A version of the story told entirely through what these 6 people have chosen to do rather than what they've chosen to say. Whatever else is true about the years since 2016, the record so far suggests something simple. The children at the center of one of Hollywood's most public divorces have spent this decade building lives that look almost nothing like their parents' fame, on purpose.